Today we'll discuss about the thoracoabdominal diaphragm. This diaphragm means a partition. This thoracoabdominal diaphragm is a musculo-aponeurotic partition between the thorax above and the abdomen below. The thoracic surface of the diaphragm is somewhat convex on two sides. If you see, it is somewhat like this. This is thoracic surface, thoracic part of the diaphragm, and this one is the abdominal part of the diaphragm. It presents two convexities, one on the right and one on the left, and this summit of this convexity we call it as cupola. So this is the right cupola and this one is the left cupola. Right cupola is slightly higher than the left because of the presence of the liver below on the right side. The central portion is depressed, and this is formed by the central tendon of the diaphragm. The diaphragm, the peripheral portion of the diaphragm, the peripheral part of the diaphragm is muscular, whereas the central part, somewhat in the anterior plane, is tendinous, which forms the central tendon. If you see the origin of the diaphragm, the diaphragm takes origin around the oblique inner circumference at the thoracic outlet. It takes origin from the inner circumference at the thoracic outlet, and the origin is arranged in the form of three. We have origin from the sternum, from front here. We have origin from the ribs, from the lower 6 ribs, that is the costal origin. One is sternal origin in front, the costal origin coming from the ribs, and the third one, the vertebral or lumbar origin, the vertebral or the lumbar origin. So overall it is taking origin from the oblique inner circumference at the thoracic outlet. Coming to the origin, which is sternal origin, number 1, that is taking origin from the posterior surface of xiphoid process as two fleshy slips. Sternal origin is coming from the xiphoid process as two thin fleshy slips. This diagram, if you see, this is xiphisternum, this is a xiphisternum, and these are the ribs 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and this is a 12th rib with its intercostal space and its contents. These are the intercostal space and its contents. This is in front and this is behind. So this diagram says everything about the diaphragm, and the view is, it is seen from below. It is seen from below, and this is anterior aspect and this is a posterior aspect. Like means it is seen from below with the anterior aspect, and the posterior, it is seen from the below. Is it clear? With the xiphisternum in front and with the aortic opening behind somewhere here. Is it clear? So coming back to the origin of the diaphragm, it has the three heads of origin. Sternal origin, which is coming from the posterior surface of xiphisternum as two fleshy slips. These are the two fleshy slips coming from the xiphisternum from its posterior aspect. Costal origin. Costal origin. Costa means rib. So the muscle which is coming from the ribs. So from the inner surface of the lower 6 ribs, the costal origin arises. So the lower 6 ribs are 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So from the inner surfaces of these lower 6 ribs, these are the muscle fibers which are taking origin. Clear? So that means from here, from these lower 6 ribs, the muscle fibers taking origin from the 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th. So from here till here, like this, it is taking origin. From the inner surface of the lower 6 ribs is the costal origin. And the third and the important, it is like the vertebral or lumbar origin. Vertebral or lumbar origin. On either sides, this origin extends from three sources. If you see, this is a posterior aspect of the diaphragm. On either side, this is the right half and this is a left half. You are seeing it from below, and this is the anterior aspect, this is a posterior aspect. From a pair of crura, on either sides I am talking, from a pair of crura, this is individually, if you say, this is right crus and this is left crus. So on each side from the crus it takes origin, and like this one, this is medial arcuate ligament. From the medial arcuate ligament it is taking origin, and from the lateral arcuate ligament it is taking origin. So on each side the lumbar origin or the vertebral origin is in the form of three sources. Number one, crus, corresponding crus. If it is right side, right crus. If it is left side, left crus. Then medial arcuate ligament, this one, and this one is a medial arcuate ligament of the left side, and this is lateral arcuate ligament of the right side, and this is a lateral arcuate ligament of the left side. Coming to the crura or the crus. From a pair of crura it is taking origin, individually we call it a crus. So the right crus, left crus. This right crus is larger than the left crus. This right crus is taking origin from the anterior surface of right half of upper 2 or 3 lumbar vertebra. Anterior surface of right half of upper 2 or 3 lumbar vertebra, like this from here. This is L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So somewhat like this, the right crus is taking origin. This right crus is larger than the left crus because it has to displace a heavy organ like liver during inspiration. That's why it is larger and more fleshy than that of the left crus. To this right crus, if you see, the suspensory muscle of the duodenum is attached to it, which in its other end or in its lower end is attached to the duodenojejunal flexure. This suspensory muscle of duodenum is also called as ligament of Treitz. Ligament of Treitz, which extends from the right crus to the duodenojejunal flexure. The importance of this right crus is, this right crus splits. The fibers of the right crus splits and forms an opening which is called as the esophageal opening, containing the or transmitting the esophagus. The right crus splits, thereby forming an opening which is called as the esophageal opening, transmitting the esophagus. So this is all about the right crus. So coming to the left crus is smaller. It extends from the left half of the anterior surface of upper 1 or 2 lumbar vertebra. It is smaller than that of the right crus. It gives attachment to a ligament called gastrophrenic ligament. It gives attachment to a ligament called gastrophrenic ligament, which is attached to the stomach. And between these two crus, there is median arcuate ligament. The ligament which is connecting these two crus, this one is the median arcuate ligament. This is median arcuate ligament here, which is lying in front of the aortic opening, transmitting the descending or the abdominal aorta. So this is about the crus. That is the first origin of the first vertebral origin. The second origin belonging to this group is this medial arcuate ligament. This is medial arcuate ligament of left side. This is medial arcuate ligament of right side. This ligament bridges in front of psoas major muscle and it is formed by the thickening of psoas fascia covering the muscle. The psoas fascia, which is covering the psoas major muscle, thickens and forms a ligament called medial arcuate ligament or medial lumbocostal arch. This medial lumbocostal arch extends from the bodies of first or second lumbar vertebra to the transverse process of first lumbar vertebra. From the body of the first lumbar vertebra to the tip of the transverse process of the corresponding lumbar vertebra. So this ligament, which is also called medial lumbocostal arch or medial arcuate ligament, extending from the body of the first or second lumbar vertebra to the tip of the transverse process of the first lumbar vertebra. Similarly, the third one, that is the lateral arcuate ligament. This is the lateral arcuate ligament or lateral lumbocostal arch, which bridges or which process across the quadratus lumborum muscle. It passes in front of a muscle called quadratus lumborum, formed by the thickening of the anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and extends from the tip of the transverse process of the first lumbar vertebra to the lower border of 12th rib. I repeat, the lateral arcuate ligament or lateral lumbocostal arch is seen in front of the quadratus lumborum muscle, is formed by the thickening of the anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia and extends from tip of transverse process of first lumbar vertebra to the lower border of the corresponding 12th rib. So this is all about the origins of the diaphragm. Again I repeat, it has sternal origin coming from the posterior surface of xiphoid process as two fleshy slips. It has costal origin extending from the inner surface of the lower 6 ribs. So this is costal origin. And lumbar origin, if you see this as the midline, on each side lumbar origin, it arises from 3 sources: from the corresponding crura, from the corresponding medial arcuate ligament, and from the corresponding lateral arcuate ligament on either sides. The crura, the right crura is larger, or the right crus is larger, the left crus is smaller, because it has to displace the heavy organ like liver during inspiration. The medial longitudinal arch or the medial lumbocostal arch, the medial arcuate ligament or medial lumbocostal arch, lateral arcuate ligament or lateral lumbocostal arch. This is all about the origin of the diaphragm. Now this diaphragm is inserted in the center. I have said it is like a dome, like it is a dome shape. It is extending origin from the front, from behind and from the sides. So overall it is coming and it is inserting into the center. Where exactly in the center? Somewhat towards the anterior plane. So this is anterior end, this is the posterior end. It is, the center is not exactly in the middle. The center, that means the impression, the insertion part, which is called as the central tendon. This is called central tendon, is not exactly in the center, it is somewhat in the anterior plane. So these fibers are inserted into the central tendon of the diaphragm, which is trefoiled leaf-like, having 3 leaflets. This is a median leaflet, this is right leaflet, this is left leaflet, because you are seeing it from below. Median leaflet, right leaflet and left leaflet. All these fibers of origin converge into the tendinous part called the central tendon, which is trefoil in shape. At the junction between the median leaflet and right leaflet, you find a quadrilateral opening transmitting the inferior vena cava. This is a vena cava opening which is quadrilateral in shape, transmitting the inferior vena cava. To the left of it, there is a central point of decussation containing 4 diagonal fibrous bands without any clinical significance for it. This is all about the origin and insertion of the diaphragm. Now coming to its nerve supply, motor nerve supply. The diaphragm is pierced by the corresponding phrenic nerves. Right phrenic nerve pierces the right part and the left phrenic nerve pierces the left part of the diaphragm. After the phrenic nerve, which is coming from the cervical plexus, root value being C3, C4, C5, after piercing the diaphragm on corresponding side, on the undersurface of the diaphragm, that means on the abdominal surface of the diaphragm, each phrenic nerve divides into 4 branches: anteromedial branch, or we can say sternal branch, anterolateral branch, posteromedial branch or crural branch or vertebral branch, and posterolateral branch. So each phrenic nerve after piercing the diaphragm divides into 4 branches on the undersurface of the abdominal part of the diaphragm and ends by supplying it. Coming to its actions, it is a principal muscle of inspiration. On the thoracic cavity, it is a principal muscle of inspiration. On the abdominal cavity, it is a big compressor of the abdominal viscera. It acts before the acts, it comes into act before the acts of defecation, micturition and parturition. And on the openings of the diaphragm, in the during contraction of the diaphragm, the vena cava opening dilates, thereby increasing the venous return to the heart. We have esophageal opening. During contraction, the esophageal opening constricts, and this aortic opening, which is nowhere related to the actions of the diaphragm because it is a osteoaponeurotic opening. We are seeing the diaphragm till here. Here you find the 12th thoracic vertebra. Between the vertebra and the diaphragm is the opening of the aortic opening, so that does not have any influence with the contractions of the diaphragm. This is all about the attachments of the diaphragm. With the openings and other features, we'll talk it in the next class. Thank you.